It's time for the Spoony One! Wrestling Show! It's time for the Spoony One! Wrestling Show!
Alright, sorry I am late with this week's Wrestle. I got so caught up with Brown History Month that I spent most of the week watching Reb Brown movies, which is a surprisingly awesome way to spend a weekend, although I did see some rather bad movies. But the point is, we got to get to Impact, because otherwise I'll never get to it. So, here we go. Now, you'll have to excuse me, there's a fair bit of history that went on since last Impact, and I'm trying to keep it all straight. Most, not the least of which being, the Royal Rumble. And at the Royal Rumble, there were two surprise entrants to the match. The first being Kevin Nash, who returned as Diesel, or at least for one match he did. I honestly don't know what his deal is with the company, if it was a one-time appearance or whatever. And the second being Booker T, who, if I understand right, I haven't actually seen SmackDown, but Booker T is now the color commentator for SmackDown, who has blissfully replaced Matt Striker. So, if nothing else, I hail the return of King Booker for getting rid of the fucking Matt Striker. Oh my God, I hate that guy. On the other hand, Michael Cole is still chairing both shows, so Jesus Christ. But what the meaning of this is that this pretty much fucks up the plan. The they plan. I hate doing air quotes. Never let me do air quotes. I fucking hate that. But that was the whole plan, was that the Main Event Mafia was coming back. Kurt Angle was coming back for weeks saying, "Oh, they're coming," and Crimson was kind of dropping not so subtle hints in backstage interviews about how they made him an offer he couldn't refuse, and so it was very clear, it was going to be the Main Event Mafia. And if you don't know who that is, well, here's a hint. About half of it was Sting, Scott Steiner. Well, almost the entire thing was Sting, Scott Steiner, Booker T, Kurt Angle. So, and Kevin Nash, obviously. So, what they would do is they would dress up in suits very nicely, and that's exactly what Kurt Angle and Crimson were doing this whole time, is dressing up in really great suits and looking really suave and stuff like that. So, with Booker and Kevin showing up and Sting probably going to the WWE, although he hasn't shown up yet. By the way, there was this rumor that Sting they were doing this trailer of this guy walking into a shack, and they're like 2/21/11. There's gonna be a big debut, and they're like, "It's Sting!" It's not Sting. It's The Undertaker. In fact, they made it pretty clear. They all but spelled it out in neon fucking lights that it was gonna be The Undertaker, just because they used the Kevin Nash "Ain't No Grave" song, and Undertaker was buried in a grave, which I think is a big mistake, actually, because you'd think if you were trying to sell pay-per-views or make people watch, you'd want to leave it a little ambiguous so as not to spoil the surprise. Although maybe they figured that the return of The Undertaker would be news enough. I don't know. So, what really slayed me about this was the fact that Dixie Carter, I remember Dixie posted on her Twitter this link to a video saying, "Don't assume anything," in all capital letters, to which I very snarkily and childishly replied, "Don't expect anything." And that video was, I shit you not, It started off with the Main Event Mafia theme and the entrance video, and it said, "They are coming," and it shows the Main Event Mafia video, and then all of a sudden it, goes to static, and it crashes, and it shows, this post-apocalyptic wasteland. And it's like, psych! It's not really them! Don't assume anything! But they're still coming. It's so not these guys. It's so not the Main Event Mafia. Dixie had always... She passed it off her complete failure to secure these guys under contract for a storyline these guys were written in was totally intentional. So she swerved us. It's the ultimate swerve. God, I gotta love Dixie's talent for self-deception. I guess where I put in that same position, it would be impossible for me to put in that position, because if I had written a storyline with 4 fucking major wrestlers, I might have signed them to contracts first, but I guess had I been put in that position and I just forgot, I was just too stupid, I guess I would have tried to cover it up as well. I don't know. So, very long story coming to a head. Bischoff comes out with all 37 members of Immortal. Actually, it's 10. But he comes out and he calls Scott Steiner out. And I have a real fondness for Scott Steiner. The guy sucks right now. The guy is beyond washed up. The dude is still jacked up beyond belief. But I have a real respect for a guy who comes out wearing chainmail. He didn't do it this week, but when he comes to the ring for wrestling, he comes out rocking the chainmail coif. And he calls himself Big Papa Pump, which I think is just the greatest wrestling name of all time. I have no idea what it means, except maybe for, like, pumping iron. Or, God help me, I don't want to think about what else it could mean. So Scott Steiner comes down, and for Scott Steiner, cuts a very boring promo for him, because usually he's much more insane. And so Bischoff kind of runs the... What's funny was, okay, this actually really made me laugh, was Bischoff comes out and he goes, Scott, there's no such thing as they. You know, this whole thing is just, it's lies. Kurt Angle is just playing us, and you're playing us. You're trying to make us worried, and we got nothing to worry about. There's no they. So he says, you know, you made us think, you made us think one thing, and trust me, I've been on the phone with these guys. I've been on the phone with Sting, and Sting's not coming. Booker T, who the hell cares what he's doing right now? Who the hell cares? I think Booker does, because he's on the biggest wrestling program, and he's on TV rather regularly on a job he doesn't have to wrestle at, and he's probably getting paid a lot of money, but whatever. So he goes, Kevin Nash. He starts off with Kevin Nash. He goes, I talked to Kevin Nash, and you know what? Kevin Nash, he's a smart guy. He did the right thing. I told him, do what you got to do for your family. He's like, go get your action figures, go dye your hair, go be on TV, you know, rake in the money, whatever you want to do. He was a smart guy. He took the money, which to me, I was like, I love how they do this. I love how Kevin Nash is the smart guy. He took the money. He took the fame. He signed on for a much better promotion. That's exactly what Eric Bischoff is saying. He goes, Kevin Nash did the right thing. He says, because apparently TNA is Bush League. You know, TNA doesn't pay shit. TNA, that's the dumb move. Coming back to TNA was the dumb move. Kevin Nash is a smart guy. You know, he didn't stick around this clown shoes organization. Smart guy. But you, Scott Steiner, you either got a choice. You can either, you know, join up with us or get your ass kicked. And so Scott Steiner, I had a much better promo in mind. Scott Steiner basically told him he was going to stick his boot up their asses. But, you know, I started doing the math here. I started doing a little Scott Steiner math. I was like, so Scott Steiner's in the ring with 10 other guys. And normally, or like 9 other guys. He goes like, yeah, okay, so follow me here. So it's like Scott Steiner's in the ring with 9 other guys. So normally he'd have a 1 in 9 chance, or a 10% versus 90% chance of winning that fight. But since Scott Steiner's the genetic freak and he's not normal, every other man's got half the chance any other man would have against Scott Steiner. So if you take half the chance of 90% and you add that to Scott Steiner's 10%, Scott Steiner, you add this 45%, so you've got a 55% chance to win that fight. So that's why Scott Steiner's so confident, is because he's got a 55 to 45% chance of winning that fight. That's Scott Steiner mathematics. And, well, I won't even get to Kurt Angle, because Kurt Angle knows that if he was in the ring, he wouldn't even try. But if they're teamed up with Kurt Angle, that's advanced Steiner math. That's Steinernomics. That's Steiner calculus. If you actually add, you're kind of dividing by 0 at that point, if you're actually adding in the fact that Kurt Angle won't even try, but he's joined with... Wow, I blew my mind. Anyway, sorry, I kind of drifted off on a really weird tangent there, but, you know, Scott Steiner does that to a guy. Scott Steiner really makes you think about stuff in wrestling you never thought about before. He's really a savant when it comes to this sort of thing. I gotta find my own amusement for this fucking show, because this whole thing took about 15 fucking minutes. And I was watching Deadwood up to this point, and I'd really rather be watching Deadwood than fucking Impact. In fact, it's really colored my fucking vocabulary. I may never recover, really. Anyway, Kurt Angle and Crimson come out, and blah, 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 and then they just walk off together. And they all want to know who they is. Here's a hint, it's Fortune. I'm going to talk more about that later on, but I'm not even into the fucking matches yet, so we're going to keep going. You know, sometimes I wonder... if these guys have any grasp of showmanship at all. And I'm not even going to talk about the match that kicks off the show. But let me put it this way. Well, I'll take this from both perspectives. You're a family, you're taking your kids down to Orlando to see the Universal Studios thing, and they go, "We want to see Impact. We want to see TNA Impact because I really like seeing all the X Division guys. And I really like seeing Kurt Angle, and I like seing dudes like Sabin and Shelley and Amazing Red and all those guys who like to flip around the ring, and they're really exciting." And you go, "Yeah, that's a great idea. We'll go see Impact. That's a fucking good idea. Let's do that." So you drive all the way fucking down to Orlando. You get there, you pay your... I don't even know if they charge ticket prices. Probably not. But you made the trip down there. You're like, "Thanks for coming, everybody. We're going to kick off with 10 minutes of talking. And our first match to get you all fired up and excited is Inc. versus Gunner and Murphy." Oh. I honestly started drowsing off the instant those guys started walking down the fucking ring. Gunner and Murphy. The heel security guys. That's you're booking the show, and you're like, how do we... Could you think of a better way to make your audience not care? Like, if you were trying to poison the audience for the entire show by starting off on the wrong foot and just putting them to sleep immediately. Talking, and then Gunner and Murphy. They had a shitty match, period. But, like, it's almost like they want the audience to hate the show. Yeah, that's why this is very simple. You put an exciting match at the beginning of the show to get people excited about the show. You got to get people fired up. Otherwise, you get them pissed off that they made the fucking trip and paid the $8 for fucking hot dogs and sat in the fucking chairs, and then you reward their patience with Gunner and fucking Murphy. I didn't even talk about... They said, like, Jeff Hardy is all pissed off backstage. He wants his title back, and he was like, "You promised Hulk Hogan would be here." And Eric Bischoff's like, I know, but Dixie paid off the judges. And she got a continuance. Of course, because Dixie promised last week that we would have this whole thing wrapped up by today. Hulk Hogan's, like, so she made a direct promise to the audience. Dixie Carter, the babyface, made a direct promise to the audience. This whole thing would be taken care of. She would have control of her company by this week. And now, that's bullshit. Hulk Hogan's not here. Nothing's been resolved. And in fact, the whole storyline is being put on a continuance, so there's no end in sight. Good job. And so, by the way, you know, what better way to poison your crowd by promising, you know, people went to this show, people tuned into this show. Well, two kinds of people tuned into this show. The majority of people tuned in because they were so excited to see the Main Event Mafia back. Like, they had all but promised from the beginning, made it very clear that Kurt Angle, Sting, Kevin Nash, all these guys were going to be in the ring. The Main Event Mafia be reunited. We have this epic team reuniting, take on Immortal. It's going to be awesome. Of course, they come off, they right at the beginning of the show even, they come right out and they just say, Booker T's not here. Kevin Nash isn't here. Sting isn't here. This is the person who tuned in to see this. They're like, all right, we're gonna see Main Event Mafia. Then Bischoff comes on. Sting's not here. Kevin Nash isn't here. Booker T isn't here. This is your average audience member. Oh. Am I wrong? If you're gonna do that, just make it a swerve. Like, don't just come out and say that. Like, I guess I admire the honesty, but Jesus Christ, you couldn't have sabotaged your own show and your own ratings anymore if you just stuck a fucking shotgun down your balls. Ugh. I can't remember. Oh, and we're in so much trouble. There's going to be a recurring segment through this whole show where it's called, like, TNA Cribs, where basically we go to the Jarrett's household, and they're going to, like, basically they're going to talk shit about Kurt Angle, and they're going to drag the kids into it. So there's like Karen starts talking about how much happier she is with Jeff and how much a better father Jeff is to her kids than Kurt was. And I'm already just really fucking disgusted. We got to move on. All right, I am this fucking close to just shutting the program off because I am so disgusted at this shit. First thing they do. They have to explain the continuance. So, Taz and Tenay are at the booth, and they go, "We sent Christy Hemme to Dallas. So we're going to go to her live in Dallas to tell us about the continuance." And they cut to the shot of a courthouse in Dallas, Texas. Where Christy Hemme says, "The judge talked to Dixie Carter's lawyers, the judge talked to Hulk Hogan's lawyers, and has decided to issue a continuance until March 3rd when he will render a decision." Cut. Back to the booth. I can see why they had to send Christy Hemme all the way fucking out there. Do you remember when the whole EV2 thing was going on, and they're at the booth, almost the exact same premise, where they go, "Now, we sent somebody down to Yonkers, New York to talk to Tommy Dreamer, and so now we're going to go there live." So they go down there, and they catch Tommy Dreamer's coming out of a Yonkers gas station. And Tommy says, "I can't talk to you right now, I gotta go." Vroom. That was money well spent. And you know something? I don't really believe they sent Christy down to Dallas. You know why? Because there is a fucking snowstorm going on, and there wasn't a fucking flake on the goddamn ground. It didn't look cold. She was wearing like a tank top. You know what it looked like? It looked like Florida, which I'm guessing is exactly where she was. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they just green screened her dumbass in front of a courthouse picture. But you know what? I can't even get pissed off about that. Stupid? Sure. Very stupid, sure. But then Eric Young comes on the TV, and I swear to God, I don't think there has been a wrestling personality in history. Let me think. I don't think there's been a wrestling personality in... I'm just going to say it. There has not been a wrestling personality in history more annoying, more intentionally annoying than Eric Young. Ever. Now, I'm going to think about that for a second, and if you'll indulge me for a second, I'm going to think. Hornswoggle is pretty fucking annoying, but not more annoying than Eric Young. I guess Hornswoggle is annoying in his own way because he's on TV a lot more. But Eric Young, am I a gorilla? Am I a gorilla? I'm a chimp. I'm your chimp. He basically does that here. I'm just going to explain what he does. He comes on TV, and he is still wearing the TNA World Heavyweight Championship belt because he's brain damaged and he thinks he's the champion. And he comes down there, and I swear I cannot do justice to his fucking annoying voice. But he goes, "Taz, Mike, Taz, Mike, Taz, Mike, I got news. I know who they are." Pardon me. And Taz goes, "Do you know who they are? Who are they?" And he's like, I saw him, Taz. And I saw him talking. I heard him talking, and it was they. They are here." And Taz is like, "Well, who are they? You gotta tell us who they are." And Eric's like, I can't tell you because I tell you, you'll tell the people, and the people tell everybody, and the whole thing will be blown, and then Kurt will kill me. He'll kill me. I can't tell you. I can't. Well, bye. And he leaves. God damn, I hate this guy. I'm seriously about to fucking lose it with this guy. Basically, they had Eric Young come out for 2 minutes, talk like a fucking chimpanzee, and then say, I know who they are, and Taz goes, who are they? And Mike says, and Eric says, I can't tell you, I was deliberately wasting your time. Gone. That is one of those segments where where you can safely stop the video and say, that was by far two of the most wasted minutes of my goddamn life. TNA is killing me by inches. Killing me! He is so fucking annoying. His gimmick is offensive. It's cartoonish. It's dumb. The whole thesis of his character is to be as piss-fuckingly annoying as fucking possible, and it's working. God damn it. I'm so getting worked up over this. And then we go to the Jarrett's house. And I'll admit, I don't have much of a humor about this sort of thing. But I seriously almost stopped. This is the one that almost broke me. Yeah. We go to the Jarrett's house, and Jeff's in his office, and Karen is being as shrill and annoying as possible, which is quite possible and quite annoying. So they start looking at the pictures, and they bring the kids in. And already I'm just going, oh no. Oh no. And they go, Jeff, what's your favorite picture on the wall? Jeff points out a picture on the wall of him hitting Kurt with a guitar. And they go, kids, what's your favorite picture? Kids all unanimously point at a group shot of Jeff Jarrett standing right next to Dixie. And they go, oh, you kids never mentioned Dixie Carter's name in this house, never. And they go, we're sorry. And then she pulls the littlest one aside and she goes, now you need to say you're sorry. And the kid's like, what? And the kid's like, you need to say you're sorry to Daddy Jarrett, to Daddy Jeff. And the kid goes, I'm sorry. Okay. Humor officially over. I am, this is me legitimately disgusted. I guess I'll just say it. There's kids involved here. There's legitimate childhoods being, made mockery of on TV, and so it's. I guess I'm saying it's okay when the adults are getting together and if they're willing to be adults and kind of make theater of their divorce, like Ric Flair does it all the time. He's had so many ex-wives and he owes money all over town. He's kind of owned that and he's made it his own. But he leaves the kids out of it. They're putting the kids out on parade, and they're basically making one of the most painful experiences a child could possibly endure. And I was very fortunate. My parents stayed together. I was raised in a very nice household, and but I can only relate. I can only relate to the number of people who have grown up in a family that's been divorced. Who's had to basically live between two households, and who. And especially those people, and I guess some of those were kind of amicable splits, but, there's a lot of abusive relationships, a lot of emotionally manipulative relationships, and this is creepy. This kind of goes. I actually don't have much of a line when it comes to black humor. Like, I've made jokes about like Owen Hart and Chris Benoit, but I shouldn't have. And honestly, it's I guess maybe the way I justified it to myself is the fact that those people are dead, and so at some point you kind of have to move on. I know if you're offended by that, and I kind of offend myself on that score, but they're dead, so it's kind of over. If I'm making any kind of sense, but with the kids, there's like 4, 5, 6 kids involved in this, and they're still around. And this is still, I don't think they even fully understand exactly what's going on. In fact, watching their faces, it's pretty clear they don't. They don't understand that, mom and dad aren't together anymore, and now Daddy Jeff is here, and so, these kids are really big. This is cruel. This is sick. This is honestly, I like I said, I've joked about this before, but really, I have to ask: have you no shame? Really, is there no depth to which this show will not sink? And it's, I might have to take a break from the show and like just get up and walk around, because I've known people who had broken homes, the parents were trying to play one against the other, and shouting matches over the phone and shit like this. And I'm guessing it's not like that for the Jarretts and Kurt Angle, but this is damaging. This is damaging shit. Could you imagine being old enough to comprehend what's going on? Like 10 or 11, and your divorced parents want you to get in front of a camera and basically make a joke of your blood parents, hating each other, and putting a clown nose on yourself and pretending like it doesn't bother you. I honestly, again, I may engage in hyperbole, but this is probably, just from an emotional standpoint and like a moral standpoint, like the worst impact I've ever seen. I feel sick. I feel sick watching this show. And I know, okay, I know a lot of people are saying you take this shit way too seriously. And yeah, on this matter, yeah, I do. I do. This is just, there's a lot of pain here. There's, and pain I don't think we've even experienced. This is pain in potential. Like, these kids are going to look back on these tapes and like, oh my God, what did my parents do to me? This is how you fuck a kid up for the rest of his life. Short of molesting the kid. This is how you do it. This is how you fucking warp a kid. And you're watching it. You're watching it on TV, and it's supposed to be funny, and it's not funny. That's all I got. I'm sorry if you guys tuned in expecting chuckles and laughs, but I'm pretty well pissed off right now. So I'm gonna be watching the show, and this might be a short episode following this, because I might just decide to shut it off. Yeah. This show, basic storytelling. Basic storytelling. Okay. The Pope and Bully Ray are in the ring, and they proceed to talk for so goddamn long to say such a simple thing that even the commentators start to remark about how fucking long they're talking. This is a very simple premise here, where Bully needs to say that he has a match at Against All Odds in a street fight, and Pope needs to say that he has a match against Samoa Joe at Against All Odds. That's it. It took like 10 minutes. So they have a what do you even call it, a match? It's Bully Ray and the Pope against Devon and Samoa Joe. So they run down to the ring. Devon runs down to the ring. By the way, not selling his injury from last week at all. If you remember last week, in fact, Bubba even brings it up, that he stuck Devon's head in a chair and then lashed it with a chain, which hurt Devon so bad that it sent him into like a grand mal fucking seizure. But he's fine this week. He's running. He's fine. So they have basically like a pull-apart brawl immediately. Like, Joe comes to the ring, House of Fire, and Pope hightails it. He starts backing up the ramp. And this is the first part where I can't take it. I really can't take this shit. Pope's retreating up the ramp, and Joe's kind of following him like a Terminator or a movie villain, Pope's backing up. All of a sudden, he turns around and he sees Kato. He sees this Asian dude up at the top of the fucking arena looking all badass. And Mike Tenay goes, "That's Okada. Samoa Joe's cameraman." Who the fuck is Okada? I asked this question last time we saw Okada, and why Joe trusts him with a camera, why he dresses like a fucking chauffeur, why he has this apparent talent with a camera, and why Joe has enlisted him to follow and stalk the Pope around and find out where he's delivering his puppies. But let's just start with the basics. Who the fuck is he? Well, some of you very helpful fans on Twitter told me that Okada is on Explosion, and he wrestles matches. Well, that's neat. But, when you're involving him on a major pay-per-view feud, it might help to justify his existence or even establish his fucking existence. Establish why him and Joe are friends. Why Okada appears to be working for Joe. Establish something. Pope runs away. They have Devon and Bubba have a brawl, and eventually security comes and breaks it up. Bubba gets up and he's all beat up. He's like, oh shit. He grabs a beer from someone in the audience. He takes a big gulp of the beer and throws the beer in one dude's face and spits what's in his mouth at another guy. And these two guys are both black. And these guys, he actually gets them good. Like, boom, poo, and he nails the both of them. And my immediate question is, who the fuck was that he spit beer in their face? And Tenay just says, that's Devon's sons, isn't it? Terrence and Terrell? I don't know. Is it? Basic storytelling. I'm trying to think of an example here where, let's take Star Wars. If Luke and Han are on the Death Star and they're both getting away, and all of a sudden this old guy steps out from the shadows and challenges Darth Vader to a duel, and we'd never seen this old guy before. And Darth Vader cuts him down, and Luke asks, who was that? And Han Solo goes, that's Obi-Wan Kenobi, isn't it? Oh! Obviously! So, this is where I say this is basic. They have never been on TV before. The only time I knew their names was after they had been assaulted by Bubba. Here's what you do. Because here's your problem. The live audience only knows who they are now. Or the TV audience only knows who they are now after the fact. So there was never any suspense or drama leading up to that point. All we knew up to that point is that Bubba threw beer in the face of two random black dudes, leading the audience to believe that Bubba just hates black people. I'm being serious. For all I knew, Bubba saw two black guys in the ring and didn't like their faces and threw beer in their face. I don't know. So now I know that they're Devon's sons. The live audience fucking confused. So what do? How do you do this so people care? Because right now, nobody cares. Nobody knows. If you don't know what's going on, it's impossible to care about it, right? So if you didn't know who Obi-Wan Kenobi was before that point, if you'd never established him to that point, and some old guy comes out and gets cut in half by fucking Darth Vader, you don't care. You have no emotional investment in this guy. like not even the beginning of an emotional investment because you have no idea what his identity is. So like, okay, here's how you do it. Let me think of a few ways where maybe you show Devon arriving at the arena with his sons and like clapping him on the back and saying, you're going to see your dad fight. You're going to see dad finally get revenge on this guy. Or you have them backstage where the sons are saying like, this is a better example where like Devon's backstage, he's got an ice pack on his head. He's selling his head injury from before and he's like, oh shit. And the sons are like, Dad, they say the words, Dad, we don't want you to go out there. You're our father. We care about you too much and we don't want to see Bully Ray hurt you anymore. And Devon says, sons, it's important he says that part, so you know who they are. Sons, I appreciate your concern, but a man's got to do what a man's got to do. 30 seconds. If that. Hell, the whole driving to the impact zone could have been done in 10. Where Tenay could say, hey, look, there's Devon arriving with his sons. I guess he's got him front row tickets. We'll see. Basic storytelling. You have to introduce a character. You must introduce a character before you do something to him. Otherwise, there is no drama. This show fucking hurts. And it's going to get worse. Because Mickie James and Sarita have a match. And it hasn't happened yet, but they advertised it. Apparently, Mickie and Sarita have a taped fist match. I want you to just turn that one over in your head a little bit. They have a taped fist match. Okay. Why? 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 These guys are talking for so fucking long. It's like Anderson and Jeff Hardy in the ring, and they've been there for like 10 minutes. Why can't they just wrestle? Just wrestle! Please? I can't take any more storyline shit. Like, not now. You know, the wrestling's all I got now with this show, guys. If you just put on a wrestling match, I can watch that. I can get engaged in that. Like, you just keep talking. That's all they do is talk. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. So we had the taped fist match. This match was fucking weak. Alright. Obviously, they taped their fists for the taped fist match. And I've already asked the question why we are having a taped fist match. This question is never answered. But let me ask you a parallel why. Why do they tape their fists? Like what purpose in terms of match continuity does this serve? Like, what effect is the taped fists supposed to have? So, one would reason, I started thinking about this, why do people tape their fists? Well, it's because that you want to protect your fists when you're punching somebody so you don't break your knuckles on the other person's face. Right? So, I'm not being funny, I'm trying to figure this out. So, why then do we have a taped fist match wherein I'm guessing the whole objective of this is to encourage direct closed fist shots to the face, and then they proceed to have a match wherein they basically never throw a single solitary punch to the face. like, ever. They proceed to have basically the most traditional grappling battle you've ever seen. So what happens is Mickie tries to throw a punch, and she accidentally, in terms of the show, she accidentally punched the ring post. She never even came close to punching the ring post, but they pretended like she did. So Sarita then proceeds to work over the hand that she injured on the post. And you're like, okay, fine. She's trying to get a submission here. But just as soon as she starts doing that, Taz pipes in and says, the only way you can win this match, the only way you can win a taped fist match is by knockout. So why is she working the hand? Why is she throwing Mickie into arm bars? This is never explained. And if you can only win by knockout, why then was the referee counting Mickie out when she was outside of the ring? Again, this is never explained. So then I started noticing some really weird stuff was going on during this match, where Sarita starts, like, she's working the arm, right? So she's got her in an arm bar, like Mickey's down here. She's got the arm locked up, and then she would raise her fist, like at the end of Karate Kid 2, like, live or die, man. And like she pulls up her fist, and then she's like, I'm not doing that. And then she'll like suplex her, and then she'll raise her fist up in the air like she's gonna punch her on the ground, and she's like, nah. And you think I'm gonna get like once or twice? No, she does this about 10 times, where like she has a position of advantage over. She's got her on like a headlock, and she's like, I could punch you right in the fucking head right now, and she just doesn't do it. So I'm led to start guessing some other things about. Well, first off, why she's doing this. Like, why does she not just punch her in the face with her taped fist? I don't know. Like, I really don't understand the psychology here. In a match that encourages punching people in the face, a match that only ends allegedly by knockout. And by the way, this stipulation where the match can only be won by knockout was not explained by Jeremy Borash when the match began. It was not explained by the referee. And in fact, I don't think it was ever explained to the live audience. So when the match ended by knockout, nobody knew what the fuck happened. Like, and honestly, it was such a throwaway line by Taz. If you weren't listening at that exact moment, you'd have missed it. You would have never caught up on that score. So she keeps raising her fist like she's going to hit her, and then just doesn't. She's going to keep working the hand. So I'm guessing they were trying to put forward the idea that Sarita wanted to punish Mickie James, like inflict more damage on Mickie before the match ended. But again, I don't understand why this is. Like, if you want to hurt Mickie, punch her in the fucking face and then hurt Mickie. Wouldn't it be way easier to hurt someone who has been knocked out? And they've never established why Sarita hates Mickie this bad. Like, why Sarita wants to injure. I mean, I'm sure they don't like each other in storyline, but why they've had this hatred apparently where Sarita has to just inflict torment on poor Mickie. It's never explained. So what happens is we have not yet actually seen a successful punch to anyone's face, and I never understand this. Why on TNA Impact the women's match is, if not the longest match on the show, it's close. They give the women's matches like more time than any other match. And I didn't clock it, but I'd almost be willing to bet, like, if you clock the title match on later tonight, that it gets as much or more time than the world title match. I'd be willing to bet you that happens. So these matches are never good. Mickie and Sarita are probably the two best wrestlers you got in there, and that really, by the way, fucking sad. So Mickie finally gets the advantage. She slides between her legs on, like, whatever, and then she spins up and punches Sarita in the face with the left hand, and she goes down like she's fucking dead, like she's knocked out cold. Mickie goes for the cover, then realizes, like, the ref, I think, just kind of scares her off, like, you're not supposed to do that. Like, it's lifts her hand, and then drops her hand, and goes, she's out, it's over. And then Mickey wins the match that way. So, like, again, if you weren't told that you win by knockout, you see her get punched in the face one time, get knocked out, and the ref checks her, she's dead, and then rings the bell, and you're like, what the fuck? What the fuck is this? So, and again, now, here's a corollary question to the why. Why, in a taped fist match, does one punch knock you out? One would think that in a wrestling business where closed fist punches to the face are commonplace and which fail to knock people out on a routine basis, like virtually in every match you ever see, there's closed fist punches to the face that don't knock people out. Why then, in a taped fist match, does a punch with a taped fist hurt more? I would think a taped fist punch would hurt less. Slightly less, but less. And then Madison Rayne comes to the ring and knocks Mickey out with her loaded glove. She has a loaded... So I guess that's what they were trying to go for, was to hint at the loaded glove with the taped fist match. Like, eventually they're going to have some match where they're both going to have, like, taped fists or gloves or something like that. I don't know. But if you're going to do that, what does Sarita have to do with this? Why is Sarita in a taped fist match? I don't know. And so, the other thing I noticed, the last thing I'm going to mention before I go here, is that Madison Rayne comes down to the ring in a disguise. She basically has, like, a TNA hoodie sweatshirt on and long pants and boots. And I noted to myself that Madison Rayne, wearing more clothes than she's ever worn in TNA in her life, looked sexier in a hoodie and pants than she ever has wearing her, like, really revealing, almost naked ring attire. She looks so fucking sexy in, like, a sweatshirt. It was amazing. I was like, oh my god, she's hot. And I'd never commented on that before. In fact, most of the time when I see Madison Rayne come to the ring in her slut wear, like, with, like, way too much makeup on, and, like, you know, pointing her thumb up her ass, like, fuck me here, and, like, her fucking hot pants, or her, like, her body-tight catsuit, I'm like, you know, if she didn't try so fucking hard, she'd look way hotter. And so, like, she comes down to the ring dressed basically like a college student, you know, and I'm like, damn, that's hot. And so, yeah, that was the match, your taped fist match for no fucking reason. And I guess I'm stalling because the next segment coming up is the big conclusion to the Jeff Jarrett cribs, and I'm really not looking forward to this. This could be, if I get really pissed off, I'm probably just gonna stop the video, like, right there and just stop it, because I don't think I can handle it. I just don't. So yeah, that's next. Well, I would have lost the bet because the title match did get a fair amount of time to it. It was all right. I'm not going to talk about the Jeff Jarrett thing. I don't want to. The real news was basically that the ref got hit, and, like, all of Immortal hit the ring, and so they started beating up Anderson, and then Fortune hits the ring, and yeah, I may have expressed earlier some confusion on whether or not there was still a distinction between Immortal and Fortune. Yeah. So what happens is they're holding Anderson up, and then AJ Styles rears back as he's going to hit him, and then he throws up the shocker, and, like, they're like, oh my god, and then AJ, like, cleans house and hits the Styles Clash on Jeff Hardy, and, you know, Immortal has to book it up the ramp, and it turns out Fortune is they, and you know, Bischoff comes out and calls him, like, a no good inbred hillbilly, no talent, having an insecure motherfucker, and AJ starts talking about how, you know, you ran one company out of business, you're not going to run this company out of business. You came in here and you started spending money hiring guys who didn't belong in wrestling in the first place. Boom, the love sponge. I'm sorry. So he starts talking about how we're not going to let you run this company out of business. We built this company, and it was okay. Like, really, what? Again, this is where I really have to question, like, what would you have done? You know, I could say that this doesn't make sense, and believe me, it doesn't. This makes no sense in the storyline because, you know, it was just last week that Kurt Angle was taking a baseball bat to the back of AJ Styles' fucking head. It was just last week when, these guys were, the Fortune was 6-on-1 teaming Anderson and, kicking the shit out of the baby faces and unless you're telling me that was all staged, that was all part of this master plan, and I refuse to believe that, and the fact that Kurt Angle was like throttling Ric Flair within an inch of his life. It was like, they're coming, and turning him beet red and basically fucking killing the guy and just assaulting people, all the stuff, all the shit that's gone on between Fortune, AJ Styles, Ric Flair, and Kurt Angle. All that was apparently staged for everyone's benefit. I don't know what else you would have done. If you'd have booked this angle and you didn't put your talent under contract, then you're like, okay, well, shit, who are they? Got to come up with something, don't we? I guess it's Fortune, that's all you got. But it doesn't make any sense. And so Impact limps to a halt. Next week, Jeff Jarrett and Karen are going to renew their vows in the ring. I would be legitimately stunned if in the history of wrestling any kind of wedding has taken place in the ring without a hitch. It's kind of like a wedding in a soap opera. Like, there's never been a successful wedding in any soap opera, ever. Unless somebody's eloped in Vegas, and even then I wouldn't think it happened. So, this one hurt. This one hurt a lot. This was... honestly, this is probably the hardest Impact to get through that I can remember in a long time, if not the hardest. This was pain. This hurt a lot. I don't even know how else to describe it. That's the show, guys. Have fun.